The show that tickles the armpit of tedium with the feather duster of interestingness. Tonight, we're taking a lingering look at love. My guests are the lovely Josh Widdicombe, that love machine, Tony Hawks, the best beloved Aisling Bea, and a complete lovely Alan Davies. So, let's hear their love calls. Josh goes...
Oh, is that my buzzer?
Yes. Oh, you could give another love call if you want.
Well, I have to get my phone out. What am I wearing?
Aisling goes...
Love and marriage.
Oh, Frank Sinatra. Tony goes...
Let there be love.
Oh, yes. And Alan goes...
I like it. I like the way you run your fingers through my hair.
Wouldn't it be possible to run one's fingers through your hair without there being some awful rending noise? I ought to tell you, though, because it's the L series, there is the likelihood of one question being lavatorial, and if it is, you can spend a penny. Very good. And if you correctly spend your penny when I ask the question, you get extra points. It's that simple. Right, to get you in the mood, here are some foods for you to try. You should have some on your little prop tables. Oh. You've got chocolates there, Josh. You've got a potato, Alan. What have you got then?
Well, I
Oh,
don't.
champagne.
It looks like champagne.
Or
It could be anything.
probably carved.
You could have had a wee in here earlier for all I know.
You wouldn't want it to fizz, though, would
No,
you?
you wouldn't.
Is your oyster on top?
Yes, it is.
I hope it's fresh. I think it's fresh and edible if you want to eat it.
Well, I hope it's fresh
You
as
can
well.
drop it in the champagne. It's quite delicious.
Oh,
champagne.
God, I love...
I'm allergic to champagne, literally.
Are you?
Yeah, I can't drink it.
Oh, no,
Gives me
it's
asthma.
simply terrible for you.
Christopher Hitchens rather wonderfully said the four most overrated things in the world are lobster, champagne, anal sex and picnics.
What a night that would be.
Come on, they're all daytime. Anyway, so you by all means eat yours, but what do you think they have to do with our theme? Chocolate?
Sexy foods.
Yeah.
Aphrodisiac.
Aphrodisiacs. They're considered to be aphrodisiac. Yeah. Oysters have long been considered it. Potato?
Yes, Alan, 1,000 times yes.
You can go on a date, of course, with 2 potatoes and a carrot, and lay them out on the desk or the table in a very erotic way, and tantalise people.
That's true. 2 potatoes
Are
and
you
a
single,
carrot.
Tony, are you?
At what point in the date do you pull out the potato?
Well, the desk. I admit that the desk on the date, the date's going badly wrong.
Well, do have a piece of chocolate, do sip your champagne, and do by all means,
I mean...
have your oyster.
I do love oysters, but one time I did get poisoning on a Valentine's Day.
On Valentine's Day? Oh, don't eating your potato raw.
Is that allowed?
It's open.
Oh. Okay, here she goes, oyster down. Oh.
Thicker than I'm used to.
Hey.
Oh,
How is it?
Oh, very nice.
Any
I'm definitely going to take this episode, I can tell you that.
dry chocolate, I think.
Oh, they're very nice.
You might have rose petals or violets.
Are you all right, Alan?
I feel horny.
Look out, Josh.
It's worked. Bloody hell, 2 bites.
Well, the reason that potatoes were considered to be aphrodisiac at one point in history, this may be something Aisling knows, is that when they were introduced to Ireland as a major crop, the population of Ireland increased a huge amount. But it was simply because there was less starvation than there had been before. Though, as we know, there was then the terrible potato blight and the population reduced.
Not to bring it up.
I'm sorry, I didn't. It was a bad moment in Irish history.
It's fine. I'm nearly over it.
There's still more guilt to be got out of it from us.
Carbs are the last thing you'd want before sex.
I don't make you feel heavy, wouldn't you think?
Depends how long you want to go on for, John.
Just slow release. Porridge.
Slow release.
I didn't mean it like that, Stephen. I'm going to have a chocolate and stop lowering the tone, I think.
The fact is, if you go online, not that this is the most authoritative way of finding out, but almost any food that you put next to the word aphrodisiac in a search field will return a result of some kind. There seems to be no food in history that hasn't been regarded at some time as aphrodisiac.
It's all a myth, isn't it? It's all nonsense.
It seems to be. I don't think there's any way of proving it. It's so hard to...
If I understand correctly, it's about the brain sex.
Yeah, yeah.
The limbic lobe in the brain sends a message to your pelvic area.
Yeah.
Sometimes by carrier pigeon. And these foods, they don't affect that part of the brain.
You're quite the sexy talker, though, aren't you?
Is this your opening line before you take out the potatoes and carrots?
I'm not giving any trade secrets away here tonight.
So you say, Daphne, my limbic system is sending me... Yeah, I think most people would agree that a lack of inhibition hurries one toward the bedroom, and alcohol, naturally, is something that would...
But it doesn't enhance the performance.
And Shakespeare makes that very point through the Portrait of Macbeth, doesn't it?
Does he? I don't care.
It increases the desire, but it mars the performance.
Yes.
The fact is, there is no proof that, as Tony rightly said, that except possibly the alcohol as a disinhibitor. Well, there you are. Almost everything in the history of food has been reputed to be an aphrodisiac, even potatoes. Who did Napoleon's ex go out with next?
Are we talking about Josephine?
Well, yes, we are, but not the Empress Josephine. Oddly enough, he seemed to have a predilection for Josephines. Well, he had two mistresses. One was called Josephina, one was called Josephine, neither of whom was the Empress Josephine. There they are. There was Josephina Grassini, who was a beautiful dancer, opera singer, opera dancer, they used to be called it, and Josephine Weimar, an actress. So they were both very beautiful.
She looks like she's doing the single ladies dance. Like she's what?
She's showing how tall Napoleon is. That's
I once was this high!
But these, as I say, were different Josephines. They were later ones. Just before the Battle of Waterloo, who was the British ambassador in Paris?
British ambassador...
I'll leave this one to you, Alan.
Before Napoleon escaped. Before Napoleon escaped. It's kind of easier than you think. He was the victor of Peninsula and he'd beaten Napoleon before, and he was about to beat him again with the Duke of Wellington. Duke of Wellington himself. And there's old Fouquet on the right, and there's Napoleon on the left, and... Yeah, Wellington really knew how to rub it in when he beat someone, as it were.
Did he go out with?
Yeah, he went out with both of these mistresses. He seduced both during his stay in Paris as ambassador in 1814 and 1815, just before Waterloo, before the escape of Napoleon. While Napoleon was in Elba, having abdicated, if you remember. Able was I ere I saw Elba. What's odd about that phrase?
It's a palindrome, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. It's a palindrome.
It's actually a palindrome, guys. So.
And Weimar was the only one who compared the two in bed, which is extremely unkind of her. She said, Monsieur le Duc était beaucoup plus fort. Was a lot stronger in bed. Fort is fiercer, stronger, mightier. Yeah, better, basically.
Was there a Mrs. Wellington sort of back home who was a bit fed up about
The
it?
Duchess, yeah.
Yeah, she must have been, unimpressed, I'd say.
Well, he famously did have a lot of affairs.
There were so many potatoes around in those days. No doubt that they were up to it.
That's right. And after the war's ended, he was presented with Napoleon's sword, 3 paintings of him, and a painting of his sister, Paolina Borghese. There she is, that's Napoleon's sister there, with the nipple showing.
She's got something keeping her chin on as well.
Yes, keeping her mouth from falling open.
I think it's a mask. It's clearly some sort of a face mask, like it's got a bit of elastic around the back.
Well, Napoleon had commissioned a statue of himself, 11 foot tall, basically twice the height of himself. And this was bought by the British government and given to Wellington along with the house they gave him. Do you remember what it's called? It's got one famous...
Number 1 London.
Number 1 London.
Oh,
Absolutely
wow.
house. And it really works. If you get into a cab and say number 1 London, the cab will go, I've always wanted someone to say that. And they will take you there.
Is that supposed to be the sculpture of Napoleon?
That is it in the, I know, somewhat idealised to say the least, in the stairwell of Apsley House, as it's also called.
Where is number 1 London? Then?
It's a Hyde Park corner.
It's easier to spot in real life because there isn't a bloody great big picture.
Duke Wellington, Beef Wellington man.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's named after him. Yep, and the boots.
And the boots.
A lot of military figure had articles of clothing named after, particularly for some reason the Crimean War. There was Lord Cardigan, who was in charge of the Light Brigade.
Balaclava.
The Balaclava helmet, absolutely. And the
Jodhpur.
Jodhpur's a place, I think. But Raglan was also part
Dr.
of...
Martin.
Raglan. The Raglan sleeve.
Lord Bobble Hat.
Colonel Scarf.
Old jock strap.
The Earl of Head and Shoulders.
Lieutenant Washington.
Well, there were a lot, a few. So, good. The Duke of Wellington's conquests included Napoleon and no fewer than 2 of his exes. Who would bite their arm off to get their leg over?
It's all around me.
Yes, Josh. You!
It must be from the animal kingdom.
It is from the animal kingdom, and what type of animals usually have to suffer in order to
Usually
give their seed? As it were?
spiders are usually-
Spiders is the right answer.
Ah, yeah, look at
It's a
that.
particular kind of spider. There's the female on the left, and there's the male on the right.
That's a niche market there.
He's going to have a Napoleon complex.
Have you seen that picture of Bernie Ecclestone and his ex-wife?
It's like that old
He said to his mates have said, no, don't bother, she's too big for you. He's going, no, I can do it. You watch, she's no problem at all, mate. You know?
He won't let her wear heels on a night out, will he?
She is 100 times bigger, and if we see him close up, you might notice...
He's Tom Cruise.
It's quite hard to see, but the front two, the left one is curled inwards a bit, but the right one is straight up, are actually penis legs. He has 8 legs like any spider, but the front two are penises and are charged with...
I've got a couple of them down on the...
The old penis leg there.
They're called pedipalps, and the thing he does in order to get a better chance of shagging an enormous female is he actually spins some silk and ties it round one of his penis legs and pulls so that it basically pulls it off. So he actually tears
If
it
he
off.
pulls it off, there's no point in having sex with him.
Then there's one left.
Oh.
And it gives him a speed advantage. So he's much, much quicker, so he can scuttle after her. It all seems most complicated life cycle, the oddest procedure, but it's honestly true. It's the male tent cobweb spider. So the males that do this are 44% faster than ones who've kept both their penis legs. But even then, when they get the female, which is their reward, the female then can suck them dry and discard them. Yeah. Which...
Oh, isn't that just the way?
Yeah.
You deserve it, you old bastards.
Is the human equivalent of this?
Katie Price.
No.
Researchers tested the tent cobweb spider rather meanly by chasing them, some intact, some not, round a little running track to see how long they lasted. And the spiders with intact sex organs lasted 16 minutes on average, but the spiders that had snapped one off or snipped one off lasted up to 28 minutes. So it is a big advantage. Once you've mated, of course, you have to bring up the children. To that end, what are the advantages of having a goat as a nanny?
Let there be love.
I think it's because they've got hooves. And if you had a nanny that had hooves, they couldn't sneak up on you.
That's true. The fact is, nanny goats are called nanny goats for a dash good reason. In the days of foundlings who were left on church doors, if you left the baby on a church steps, it was a foundling, and it was therefore thrown on the mercy of the parish, and it had to be fed. And of course, there was no such thing as SMA or cow and gate or anything like that. The only way they could get milk was from a breast, so you had wet nurses. But you also had goats. And goats were amazing.
They feed on the goats.
Yeah, they feed on the goat milk. Very good stuff. Straight from the teat. It's better than until 1870. Pasteurisation was invented by Pasteur, obviously. It was the healthiest way you could have it straight from the teat.
Was the goat okay with...
Not only okay.
I've seen Jot his little eyes light up and he's like, straight from the teeth.
Yeah.
Is the goat okay with...
Not only okay, you may have seen cows that are desperate to be milked and they queue up for the dairy in order to be milked. Well, goats are the same if they're ready to give suck. So we have here a description.
What?
Well, you know, the phrase, Shakespearean again, Lady Macbeth. French doctor Alphonse Leroy described it in a foundling hospital in France. Each goat which comes to feed enters bleating and goes to hunt the infant which has been assigned to it. So there's a particular child that's been assigned to, pushes back the covering of the bed with its horns, like that, and straddles the crib to give suck to the infant.
Sounds like an accident waiting to happen. Goat soup on the...
Can you imagine trying to get insurance for that now with the NHS? So we just have this goat straddle a baby, and then the baby just sort of notice suck off the goat.
Yeah, imagine the Daily Mail all over that.
Well, maybe.
Goat straddles baby.
Why do they have... Why goats? Why not?
Well, it's a very good question. Cow's just a bit too big, I think, to go into a little... go over the crib.
I don't want to pat on the head. 13 years. Been waiting for that.
Yeah. You asked about goats, and some people thought into the 19th century that breast milk contained not only nutrition but the character traits of whoever gave it. So if the mother was a loose woman and had given the baby out of wedlock, she wasn't to be trusted to give milk to her baby because she would be passing on her immorality to the child. This is how mad we once were.
Well, how do they know what the goat's been up to?
Well, they thought they were married goats. It might have been an unmarried goat. You're absolutely right. In 1816, there was a writer who compared different milks and wrote the definitive book called "The Goat is the Best and Most Agreeable Wet Nurse." Others preferred donkeys, which are thought to have a better moral reputation.
They are very noble. They carried our Lord.
That's it, and Palm Sunday,
Mary,
well remembered,
yeah, and also
exactly.
Mary.
And then there was the syphilis outbreak in the 16th and 18th centuries.
What's he up to? Oh, OK, fair enough.
This better be for the baby.
I think that's a different bloke that usually does it, according to that goat's face.
Hang on a minute, that's not the grip I'm used to. Hello, that's a bit firm.
Do you know what I find mad about? I don't have kids, so maybe women in the audience will know. But that when you're breastfeeding your child, if you're, say, in a supermarket or something like that, and someone else's baby cries, you leak like a spider sense.
Yes.
If someone, isn't that true? Any women have had?
Yeah, it
is.
There's a bloke up there going, yep. I always leave when I hear a baby crying. I don't even know why that's funny.
It's not true though, it is, isn't it?
Well, if you have, you presumably expressed into a pot and given it to the babysitter. That's what happens, isn't it?
Why would the babysitter want some?
There was an ice cream.
There's a million.
There was an ice cream shop.
Shot
That would have
glasses.
been fine.
Wasn't there?
Have yourself anything in the fridge?
There was for a very brief time an ice cream shop, wasn't there, here in London, which sold
Breast milk
human
ice cream.
breast milk ice
Oh,
cream.
you say a very brief time because it's the worst business plan of all time.
Yes, you're right. You try it once, I think, like incest or country dancing. Wish that were my own.
You've not been to Devon, Stephen.
I come from Norfolk, for God's sake. No, the sad thing about the syphilis outbreaks of the 16th and 18th century is that it was believed then, and indeed all the way up to the 19th century, that one of the cures for syphilis, a kill or cure really, was mercury, which is poisonous, as I'm sure you know. And they decided a good delivery system for babies that were born syphilitic was to make them suckle on the milk of goats that had been fed mercury. A lot of goats died that way, so unkind.
Did the babies die?
Probably. It probably didn't help them. I mean, it's not good for the brain at all when you're growing brain.
It's good for thermometers.
It's very good for thermometers, I agree. These days, thermometers are little ear click things and everything. They've really moved on, haven't
Yes, they have.
Yeah. In the ear, bing, like that. So amazing.
Or you could stick a thing under the armpit.
Or,
But more difficult.
more fun. Under the tongue.
Oh, under the tongue. Under the tongue.
Were you thinking?
More difficult, though, for you to, like, fake your temperature to get off school, though.
No, you used to stir the coffee with it and things like that. Yeah.
You were having coffee as a schoolboy. Mother, I'm not ready for primary school. I'll just have this latte and stay here.
Oh, looks. Anyway, now to bundles of love. Why did the Puritans want lusty young men to get into the sack? That picture tells the story.
Let there be love.
I think that it's to do with them not having sex
Yes.
early on.
Right.
Because they were Puritans and they
Yes.
thought sex was evil or you shouldn't do it, certainly until you were married or anything like that.
Completely correct.
So they had a thing called bundling,
Yeah, absolutely.
where they
right.
put them into sex.
That's right.
Or something, was it?
That's right. So there was getting the young man into the sack in that literal sense. You put the man in a sack, and he could sleep next to his intended, or he could have a board between them like that.
I mean, what kind of man can't get over that?
The old handheld drill under the covers.
He's actually looking at that and saying, this is more over my side.
Yeah,
Does the duvet go under the...
it does. You basically fit this wooden thing on once you've made the bed.
You sure they haven't just misread the instructions to an IKEA?
The IKEA bundling kit.
It's a short collar bed.
Why were they sleeping together before marriage?
Well, I think that they did want them to get used to each other conversationally.
Yes, that's right.
Well, genuinely, that was
Yeah.
it.
I believe that's the idea. So that was bundling. It was an American and Dutch tradition which Americans took to, particularly in Pennsylvania, where the Dutch people went. Now, what horror was first shown in the film Psycho?
Love is all around me.
Was it someone in the shower?
I mean,
thought I
she's
was
in
right.
the shower, but the film shot took 30 days to film, which is very short by any Hollywood standards, and 7 of those days were devoted to the shower scene. Janet Leigh...
He actually got it in the first day, but...
Let there be love.
Yes, you're right.
There was a toilet in the shower scene.
Yes.
Is that it?
It's not just that there is one, it's the first time one had been seen flushed with the water going round. It spirals down the lavatory. The film is black and white. There's the murderer, we won't say who they or he or she is, and it's considered one of the masterpieces now, particularly the Bernard Herrmann score. Which... Anyway, Psycho was the first film to feature a flushing lavatory. Now, it's time to clear the blockage of received wisdom with the plunger of general ignorance. So fingers on buzzers, please. What should a Welshman wear on his hat on St. David's Day?
Let there be love.
Yes.
Daffodil.
Well, if it's not, it's got to be a leek, right? It's got to be a leek. What about cheese on toast? Is it going to be
A Welsh rabbit. A Welsh rabbit.
We've been rather unfair there, of course, because Welsh people do wear leeks these days in their heads, but we're going all the way back to the original battle they fought, where supposedly they wore leeks in order to distinguish themselves. You can see if that's the Royal Welsh Regiment or whatever, with what look more like...
I've never seen a queen so happy.
It really does look
What's that
thrilled.
bloke said to her about his hat? She loves
Something
it.
about it.
They've all got leeks on their hats.
She's probably saying She's probably saying they don't know that they're actually spring onions. They look a lot more like spring onions. Well, there's a whole issue about whether or not they were leeks. And Alan Davidson, close name, author of the Oxford Dictionary of Food, he claims that leeks, as we know them, didn't arrive in Britain for much longer after the Battle of Heathfield, where the Welsh who beat the Saxons there believed that they first wore leeks to identify themselves. In Anglo-Saxon, the suffix liek meant any member of the onion family. So enliek was an onion and garliek was garlic. So they might have sported something like garlic, which is slightly more light and practical than certainly a fully grown leek. The Museum of Wales thinks that actual leeks may have been brought over by the Romans. So there's dispute, really, to be honest. We just wanted to take the points away from you. Anyway, it's possible that the national emblem of Wales should really be a garlic. There's a layer of the atmosphere which protects us from ultraviolet radiation. What's it made of? Hint, it has a hole in it.
Love and marriage.
Ozone.
Oh,
No. What are the odds?
what are the odds? Because it is called the ozone layer, but it is neither a layer nor made primarily of ozone, which is very mean of scientists to do that to us. It wouldn't
Named
know it
after the
existed.
Irish family, the zones or the ozone.
The ozone. The ozones have moved in next door. It's only 15 parts per million ozone. Do you know what the chemical formula for ozone is?
Yeah, but I'm not going to tell you.
It's O3. Oh, yes, it's a pale blue form of oxygen with a very pungent smell. At 0 degrees Celsius and normal atmospheric pressure, all the ozone in the sky would cover the Earth to a depth of just 3 millimetres. Under the same conditions, the rest of the air would make a layer 5 miles thick. That's how rare it is. And finally, here's one for surf lovers. Where can you find the biggest waves in the world? Whitcomb Fair.
Hawaii.
Oh, dear, oh dear.
Newquay.
So where?
The Indian Ocean?
No, well, possibly, yeah.
Malibu.
Well,
I was just on a hat trick.
yeah. There is good surfing to be had there on the Californian coast, but let's forget coasts. Let's forget Australian coasts and any other coast.
Is it going to be
Is it going to be a different type of wave?
It is, no, it's a seawater wave, but it's underwater. The biggest waves are actually subsurface waves. Surface waves. It was satellites that showed us. We didn't know until satellite photography.
And there are lots of drowned surfers.
They'll be very hard to surf because they really go incredibly slow. They crawl along a few centimetres a second, so a few metres an hour, I think. And a tsunami, on the other hand, which is obviously a gigantic wave, is Japanese for harbour wave, because we say tidal wave. But a tidal wave isn't correct, because it isn't tidal. Tsunamis result from earthquakes, landslides and volcanoes, as we probably know. In the open ocean, the waves are about only 300 millimetres high, but with a very long wavelength, sometimes hundreds of kilometres apart. As they approach land, the sea gets shallower, and that's what pushes them up.
How fast is a tsunami? Because he is not going to...
He's not going to make it, I'm sorry. No, he's not.
Especially with 3 sharks on their way.
What with him not having any feet?
Dear, oh dear, oh dear. Well, before it gets any sicker, the world's biggest waves are underwater. And so, finally, to the scores, which, if you're lucky, will be love all. Well, they aren't. They're fascinating, though. He did run into the wall several times. The tousle, toe-headed deer from Devon. Minus 36 points in 4th place is Josh Widdicombe. How relieved is our 3rd placer on minus 7, Alan Davis. Just ahead on minus 6. And plus 7, it's Tony Holt. So it's good night from Aisling, Tony, Josh, Alan and me. And I leave you with the last words of English essayist Lady Mary Wortley Montague. It's all been very interesting. Good night.
Futuristic sci-fi drama Steven Spielberg's AI, Artificial Intelligence, is our late film at 11:35. Before that, Paloma Faith and Lloyd Grossman show off their music credentials. Never mind the Buzzcocks at 11:05. After Newsnight.